Okay, yeah, I believe we are. Oh, let me just close that window. Okay, hello, Ryan.
Hey,
How's
how's
it
it
going?
going? This is
Very good
exciting.
indeed.
Hello, Facebook. It's a huge honor to be here today. I love this group. I'm actually kind of blown away that the group exists because it's exactly the type of thing that I sort of have a life goal of achieving, and that's making it so that prospects don't hate getting prospected. Like I kind of think that's like the way I sort of think about it a little bit when people are writing cold email copy. Like, how can I do something where someone doesn't feel like they're being hated, or just getting a stock message? So anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm over talking a little bit there.
No, it's fine. We're both. It looks like we both do that. I ramble on, so you stop me as well.
Okay, we'll have a
But
stop symbol. We'll have a safe word.
the audience will let us know when we're getting. I guess we'll start from the beginning. Could you tell me a little bit about LeadIQ and everything you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, sure. I'll give a little bit of a longer story, but I'll try and make it short. So for people that don't know, I got my start out of college in 2008. I worked for a company called Dyn, DYN. And I was their first hire for business development. So my job was to figure out how the hell do we actually sell into customers and get meetings for the sales team. And my whole job was to basically write emails all day, figure out how to break in, find people's contact info, all that stuff. What happened, I wanted to work in marketing originally, but the marketing department there was really full, and I was a kid out of college. It was during a recession. It was just kind of hard to get involved in marketing. So I was like, oh, I'll just do prospecting and kind of treat it like a marketing job. And what I did is I did a lot of my cold email tactic stuff almost like a marketing job. Like I did little micro marketing things for one target specifically.
Yeah.
And that became the way I approached prospecting there. And I did really well. I got meetings at companies like Tumblr, Salesforce. The NFL was one I was really proud of, which is a really hard group to break into. UPS. I did this for small rinky-dink startups all the way up to publicly traded Fortune 50 companies. And my big thing was to just get meetings with people that sold and worked in network operation centers. And if anyone that's listening to this is involved in that world, they know these are people that fear light. They hate talking to strangers. It's super hard. So like you got to kind of figure out a way to stand out a little bit with what you're writing over a cold email. And I'd say 95% of the prospecting I did there was over cold email. And I luckily they gave me tons of flexibility, but I did really well there. And so while I was doing that, our company continued to grow. I moved into a marketing role and then eventually got involved in a couple other startups and left the company. Last year they got acquired by Oracle for $600 million, which is really sweet. But I ended up kind of having this soft spot in my heart for prospecting. Like I was like, oh man, I'd love to get back in. Like I didn't want to prospect full time. I wanted to keep doing marketing stuff because I think it's really fun, but I wanted to get involved with it. And a couple of years ago, some of you have probably read this blog post on LinkedIn. It's one of the most viewed blog posts by a non-influencer. It's how to find 3 tricks to find anyone's email address. I wrote this blog post just kind of dropping some nuggets on how to find emails. And the founders of LeadIQ reached out to me. And before long, we were working together. And I've been working here for a couple of years now. And what we're doing is we've built a tool that makes it really easy for anyone to go get email addresses really quickly with one click. And we go and look over the web. You feed us first name, last name, company name. If you're prospecting an event, you have a spreadsheet of these things. Or if you're on LinkedIn and you want to go grab someone and get them into your sales systems that you're using and send emails, we do all that stuff super fast. Logically, the reason we're doing this is because we can free up all the annoying parts of prospecting, you're going to focus on the creative part of prospecting. Nice. And to put it in perspective, I've got people on my team. I think we've got around 5 people that work in sales now. We average a 30% response rate. So we're really good at getting good reply rates on cold email. We obsess over it. Some of that is because LeadIQ frees up that time for us. The other part of it is being creative and talking about practicing some of the principles that we have on how to get good double-digit reply rates. And I think that that's kind of where my expertise fits. And the cool part is I've done this for not just targeting salespeople. I did this when I worked at Dyn too. My reply rates were really high at Dyn. I'd go reach out to maybe 15 accounts and instead of getting 5 responses, reaching out to 100 accounts, I'd get 5 responses out of 15 accounts. And that reply rate kind of floated around for an average around 30%, which is really high. I know, I don't know if you know this, John, you probably have some data on this too, but I've read that the average sales rep gets a 3.5% response rate on a first email, which is really low. And we all keep doing it. We all try and do the same insane thing, even though it's not necessarily the best route to take. And so that's kind of my story a little bit. Hoping today we could kind of talk about cold email techniques and some cool stuff that we do. It's
awesome to find someone as equally as nerdy about this stuff as myself. Well, I'm sure we have a group of people that are interested, but to be interested at this level where you finally bring creativity back to B2B, well, bringing it for once maybe, because it seems like people think B2B means boring to boring, and it really doesn't have to.
Oh, I'm going to steal that. That's really good.
I wish I thought of that myself.
It's totally true. I think fundamentally the biggest problem that I think people run into when they prospect is they actually think about the perspective of like, oh man, I'm targeting a business, so I have to write like I'm targeting a business. But the fact is, the average person, I don't know the data in Europe, but the average person in the United States changes jobs every 17 months.
Yeah.
That means that if that's the average person, that means most of the people that you're cold email prospecting or you're prospecting in general are actually, they probably don't like their job, and they probably don't give a flying shit about their company that they work at. So when you go write a cold email saying, hey, blah, 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 I can help your company with XYZ. Yes, you can do that. And it's important to have value in what you're saying, your cold email, but you need to find a way to connect with them on a level that's human, because it doesn't, like, your goal with a cold email is to start a relationship. It's not to get them to be like, yes, I want to buy this right away.
I've had that exact, but you know, with those emails where every feature and benefits then, it's like, no, the job of the cold email is to sell the idea that a call or meeting with you is not a terrible use of their time. That's
and part of, but I think the thing that I noticed is my favorite part is if you're going to approach prospecting that way and you're going to do something like that, what you need to do is you need to focus on making your emails a little bit entertaining too.
Yeah.
Find a way to connect with them. Make it so that you're going in and you feel good getting prospected. And I actually think the future of prospecting is going to be sort of like people getting together to write a comedy bit. Like it might be, whether it's like Saturday Night Live or something, these writers all get in a room and say, what are we going to do this week? We got to make a show. What are we going to do? That same thing is actually where prospecting is going to be going. You're going to have 30 or 40 accounts that you're going to try and break into. And because you have that little amount of accounts, a future sales rep is going to have to say, what am I going to do to break into this? And I'll give you a perfect example. Last year, when I first joined LeadIQ, I was trying to find a way to get us some meetings because we wanted to try and test selling a new feature as a value prop instead. That's the other thing too. If you work at a startup here, before you go spin up a landing page and build a whole marketing plan around a value prop, go test that value prop with email, because it's way easier to spin up 30 or 40 really good cold emails than it is to go make one landing page and then pay for ads and stuff and get people to convert in. But anyway, a good example of this is last March, I was trying to figure out a way to see if LeadIQ has this functionality where if you're on LinkedIn and you're on LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you find someone you want to go grab and get their contact information. With one button, we can also send that lead into Salesforce. At the time, we had just launched that, and we weren't sure if people gave a shit about this. Like, we weren't sure if the focus was like, oh, I want to get emails or I want to get this into Salesforce. To test this, I actually decided, instead of just writing cold emails, I grabbed my webcam. I was bored one day, and I recorded myself singing songs to these people on a piano. And I just had my webcam recorded. I'd grab Google Drive. I'd write a couple quick lyrics that were just about the company that I was prospecting or the individual I was prospecting. Usually it was a VP of sales. And I'd be like, I'd make a song really quick with the piano and play it, record it, upload it on YouTube. Now you can use tools like Viewed It. There's a couple other tools like that exist. Bombear is one that a lot of people talk about, or Bomb or whatever it's called. But I would write an email saying, hey, blah, blah, I think you guys are a really cool company. I made this video specifically for you, and I made sure that the content in my song that I made about them was about them, not their company. Yeah. Would love to figure out a time to talk. We help with this part. What are your thoughts? And I sent an email like that. Crazy thing is I went and did this for about 20 accounts. I booked a meeting with 40% of them doing this.
And you almost making it impossible for them not to reply.
It basically makes it so that they feel like shit if they don't reply.
Yeah.
And that's like, and I know that's not necessarily the goal, but like, it's an example of, I'm not a guy that was born and raised and said, someday I'm going to work in sales. No one in this chat, if you grew up and said, I want to work in sales, I bet you're a liar. You probably want to do something. I mean, what did you want to do, John, before you did this stuff?
With everything, I fell into all of it. I fell into, like, I had a business when I left school. And after that, I was very good at the online promotion stuff. So SEO and paid search. So I went into work at digital marketing agencies. Then I started my own agency thinking I could do it better myself. And then about a year in, all the word of mouth stuff dried up. And that's when I got drunk one night and wrote the most absurd cold email ever. And then
I saw that post.
Well, this is what I think. This is why the approach works: is if you can make someone laugh and give them a good feeling, of course they're going to be more likely to press reply. And it is almost like the reciprocation in action, that you've made them smile or made them laugh, they're more likely to be compelled to reply.
Think about it like this too. You come from an agency background, right? In the agency world, if you're not familiar with it and you're listening to this and you just work in normal B2B sales, these people sit in a room with a whiteboard and write down hundreds of ideas, and they end up picking the best idea and then they try it. The fact is, what you can do is you can actually, the funny thing is, all these companies do all these marketing tactics, like they'll do webinars or they'll buy sponsorship at an expo or a trade show or something. And you could go dump 10 or 15K into an event like that and take that risk. But the fact is, in business to business, your customer acquisition cost is so high that you can afford to take a little extra time before you go write a cold email. And if you really treat it like, man, I'm going to get the same result out of this that my big company will out of making a Super Bowl ad or a World Series ad or an Oscars ad or whatever the big campaign is that you're doing, you approach your cold email that way, you'll actually get better results. And that's like, we think about that all the time. When I trained my guys here, we basically would go through this thing we called the 10-minute game, where we set a timer and we look at LinkedIn profiles and we say, in 10 minutes, what angle can you come up with? Yeah. And it might be something as simple as I found a guy, for example, that we were prospecting that he clearly took his picture on LinkedIn behind a fountain. Yeah. But I wrote an email to him and I said, hey, blah, blah. I talked about his company for a second. And I said, I noticed on LinkedIn on your picture, even though you probably took this in front of a fountain, it kind of looks like you're whitewater rafting. Like, you had these splashes behind him that totally made it look like he might have been on a raft when he was really in front of a fountain. The guy wrote back and we got a meeting with him. And the reason we were able to go do that stuff is because we connected with him on a level where he's thinking, if I'm going to take time out of my day and escape from work and get away from what my normal day-to-day is, I want to do it with someone that's funny and entertaining. Yeah. I want to do it with someone that's going to be fun to talk to. Yeah. If you don't have that and your cold emails are bland and boring, why are you going to send them? The other challenge that I always try to think of, and remember, I know that, like, what I love about your group is a lot of it's focused on the value prop stuff, and that's really important too. You want to make sure you can sneak that in there and keep most of your content, your email, about them, not you. But if you can figure out a way to do something where you're proud of your email, like you're like, that's a good cold email, I would post that on social media and have everyone look at it. Yeah. If you aren't comfortable doing that and aren't proud of it, don't send it, because if it's not good enough for your friends, your network, your colleagues, everybody to see it, it's definitely not good enough for your prospect to look at it.
That's what I tell people, a few different things. One is write like you speak, because there's so many people that go to write a business email and they're worried to even put a smiley face. Like and then also write like you would to your friends, like to a degree, not,
like keep it safe for work. Don't go sending weird things. Don't
be offensive or cocky or anything like that, but make it so it's enjoyable. And if it's enjoyable to write, it's enjoyable for the other side to read. And so I agree with that.
I think one thing too, this is kind of a cool exercise. I was once on the Salesman Red podcast, and Will asked me, if you're not naturally funny, and let's say funny isn't your thing, one thing I always tell people is don't force funny. But if you're feeling like you're in a rut and you can't think of creative ideas for a cold email, let's say you're like, I don't really know my voice yet. The thing is, when I prospect, I'm almost an exaggerated version of myself. Yeah. Like I not like over salesy, but like you start with something that's a little bit more extreme, and then you figure out how to tone it down and get more comfortable with yourself. Here's a good exercise for it. if you're writing cold email and you're struggling to come up with creative ideas, think of a fictional TV character or book character or movie character that you like. Write your emails in that voice and send it. And you'll first start seeing cool results, but it's a good exercise for you to get out of your head. And you'll eventually start realizing there are characteristics that you like in those characters that you might be able to mimic with your cold email copy. So like the example I always use is when I worked at Dine, I used to write stuff almost in the voice of like, I used to think of myself writing stuff in the voice of Wayne Campbell talking to the camera in Wayne's World. Like I always thought of like that kind of voice when I write stuff. And I was writing to IT and network guys, you know what I mean? But I get good response rates. And then I eventually kind of started to figure out like my own voice as I was doing it. But at first that's how I got out of my rut of like not writing these sterile corporate emails. I actually was terrible at cold emailing when I first joined Dine. The first couple of weeks, I basically was going through our Salesforce and looking at what was already sent and taking those templates and being like, I'm going to tweak these a little bit. There are only a couple reps that were doing cold prospecting then. And it was the stupidest idea. And after a couple of weeks, the chief revenue officer, now he's the general manager at Oracle, Kyle sat me down in a room. His name's Kyle York. And he said, Ryan, I hired you to be Ryan. I didn't hire you to be Chris or Josh or Steve or, all these people that were already working there. He said, I hired you to be Ryan. Be yourself. You're not going to get in trouble writing a cold email that's different, especially if it works. Like, go be yourself. And the second he did that, he removed this cage for me, and I was just able to go not worry about getting fired for writing a bad cold email or having someone see this and say, hey, what the hell are you doing? And it made me way more comfortable with myself doing that. And I think that if you're working in a corporate environment like this, no one's going to be mad at you if you produce results.
Yeah, I agree. I actually think that because it's a good piece of advice there. I actually tell people to watch stand-up comedy or sitcoms even, because that's where my style came from. Like, I've never studied copywriting. I'm only just doing that now. and I think that one of the reasons why it worked is I was obsessed with it. And those humor formulas just come naturally, like the pair of three and the reverse and all these ways of writing humor. So I like the advice of watch a particular character, because if you do that, you will get into the mode of writing in getting into that style.
And
I feel like that advice a lot.
You could actually pick a character that you think appeals to your target audience a lot too. So like for me, I worked at a startup where I was prospecting moms. I wrote a lot of my stuff in the style of like, I was into 30 Rock at the time, and I was writing a lot of stuff almost in the voice of Liz Lemon. Like, nice. Just apply the character, transpose what character you're doing based on that. And don't sign off your emails as that character.
Yeah.
Because you want to be yourself still, but it's a good exercise to kind of get more familiar with it. And one thing we do at LeadIQ to be honest with you, I'm going to be transparent. It's a lead gen thing that we do. If you send cold email, you're usually a really good customer for us. So one thing that we do is we do this thing called Rate My Pitch, where people send us cold emails all the time, and we'll go rip them apart over video. We'll give you a grade. We'll tell you if they're good, what you can do to make them better. And the reason we do it is we do it for one person and say, hey, if you want us to do this for your whole sales team, we'll show you LeadIQ. In exchange, we'll do it for your whole sales team. And the conversion on it's actually really helpful. But it's actually the approach that people do with prospecting. Hold on a sec, sorry. Allergies. but I was going to say, the actual whole approach of everything, the fact is, if you write an email like you're going to be starting a relationship with something or with someone, people hate saying no to people they like. And that's why the humor thing works and why you should approach prospecting with that. Yeah. The other thing you can do is, I think there's sort of 3 different stages of conversation with prospecting or with bonding with relationships in general. There's small talk, which is like, how about the weather, current events, boring stuff like that. And then there's another level of conversation. That's like stage 1 conversation. Stage 2 conversations, mainly common interest. And if you think about the friends that you've made over the years in your professional settings, in school, high school, middle school, outside of school, social activities, a lot of the reason that we become friends with people is common interest. Yeah. If you can go find your target customer and find out what movies and bands they like, sometimes they're on Facebook, they don't protect it. You can go look, find that person on Facebook. You can see their job and description on Facebook. Yeah. Hunt them down, go look at what movies and TV shows and music they like and stuff. You might be able to go make a reference to something that they like in your cold email, and then bring it back to your value prop, and they'll take the meeting. And guess what? your first phone call, you're both yucking about the same thing that you like to do.
Yeah. I do like that if it's done well. I have had, I've sort of made a joke when people do it and it's so like obviously fake. Like they go, "Oh, I love kayaking," and then it's
don't lie. That's the thing.
Yeah.
If you don't like something, don't bullshit it. Just be honest. Like,
so many people think all of this stuff is like trickery, where really it's not. It's just it's not trickery at all. So
like I think like I always talk about this a little bit. One of the guys on my team, his name's Drew Healy. He's a business development rep at our company. Drew runs our BD now, and he's great at writing cold emails. He gets a really high reply rate on stuff. Drew will actually go look at what a person likes before writing a cold email, and you know, if he doesn't relate to it, he doesn't bring it up. Like, he's not going to go write to someone and be like, "Hey, blah, blah, I saw you wrote a vegan cookbook. I don't eat vegetables." Like, why would you do that? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't bring up something. And the other thing too is don't call out that you stalked them. Just make a coincidental reference to something. Like if I like the Big Lebowski, if you want to sell me something after this call and you want to write an email to Ryan at LeadIQ.com, go ahead, by the way, that's fine. I'll look at it. If you write something, don't just say the dude abides. Make a nice reference to the Big Lebowski in it if you're going to do it. And don't say, I heard you like the Big Lebowski. Just make a subtle reference to something. And it'll resonate in their head as a coincidence.
I was on the topic of you said you watched Liz Lemon in 30 Rock to get into that style. On a similar note, when I was trying to contact PR directors, and I wrote it in the format of a press release, and the press release was about the fact that I was sending them a unsolicited message, an unexpected move.
Cool.
John Buchan sent it, and it was so it was like a half Onion article, half press release, and that did really well. I had a lot of fun with that. So I do like that, adopting the a format that resonates with them as well as the language, but you can do a lot with the format as well. And the press release was a good example of that.
The other thing too is I sometimes see people that will go to like one of my talks or see something that we do or a webinar, and they'll write an email to me after showing it, be like, "Hey, what do you think of this? I listened to what you did. What do you think of this?" And sometimes they miss the mark because they'll still make an email that's really long. Or something. Like, you still want to remember the principles of what makes a good cold email. I've looked at what you've written before, and I think you have a lot of cool stuff. It's sort of different than how I think about it, but it's still, I think the neat part is applying the same principles. Like, my criteria for like what makes a really good cold email is sort of answers 4 questions. Like, why are you emailing me? Which is sort of where you fit the value prop in. How am I special to you? That's where you do personalization. That's where you do something where like, I've picked you because you're the chosen one. You know what I mean? And that's how it should feel to a prospect. And then the other thing I hate this one part, there's a question you should answer. It's, who are you? That should be one sentence, and it shouldn't be about you. That's what your email signature is for. Like, I think it drives me nuts when people go and write all these bullet points about what their company does and different features and stuff. And the other thing is, it leaves you out to dry when you actually get on your first sales call. Like, if I get on my call with someone and I spewed off, "Hey, blah, blah, you should talk to us because we'll get stuff into Salesforce. You could send leads outreach or sales outreach or SalesLoft or something." Like, if I go mention that stuff on the call, on my email, and then I get into the call, I have no surprising reveal for them.
There's you've given it all away at once. There's nothing to be curious about. There's nothing to reveal.
You got to bait them a little bit into wanting to actually talk to you and figure out that stuff.
There's humor and there's persuasion elements there, the use of curiosity. There's loads going on in these things. And could you tell me a little bit about your favorite campaign that you've worked on? Or I read some of the blog posts that you sent over.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I think my favorite campaign that I've ever done, it actually it really changed my life, actually. Around 2000, I think it was 2011 or 2012, I was still working on the prospecting team at Dine, and it was around the holiday season. So it was out of office season. It was really hard to get a hold of people. And anyone that's listening to this that works in the infrastructure space or data center space knows that e-commerce sites, especially, which is one of the big targets we go after, they don't move or change anything in the middle of the holiday season because they're so afraid of switching vendors and having something go wrong that the website goes down and then their product goes down and they lose millions every time that their product goes down. So it's actually a really hard time for us to prospect. And what it did is it actually freed up some time for us to think, let's do something that's really targeted. So I went to everyone on the sales team. At the time, I think we had 7 sales reps. And I said, hey, sales reps, give me one account you want to break into. Like, just give me one account that you're dying to break into, your dream account. And I went around the different sales reps that had different accounts. And remember, I'm the BDR guy. So like, I don't have an interest in actually closing these accounts. I just want to get the meeting for them. And we ended up, 6 of them came back to me with companies. One of them was careerbuilder.com. One was Living Social. Another was Hulu. Another one was Funny or Die. Another one was Expedia. Well, I'm forgetting one, but anyway, whatever, you get the idea. They all picked some really big name logo companies that you'd want to have on your website as a company. And so they gave me these accounts. One rep didn't get back to me, which they instantly regretted, which was a big mistake. And I basically said, all right, I'm going to focus this whole month on getting into these accounts. And I'm just going to think about what I can do here. And so at the time, I was really getting into Rocky movies. Like, I just watched all the different Rocky movies. And I love the training montages of them. They make them so watchable. You've seen them, right? Have you seen the Rocky movies?
Of course.
Like, they're over the top somewhat, especially after Rocky 1. Like, they get really over the top. Like, Rocky 4 is pretty much an American propaganda film. But I love the montages in them. So I had this idea of like, I want to make a montage that shows that we're training for these prospects so that we want to break into their account. So I came up with this idea. The campaign was called Dines Ready. And basically what we did is we handpicked 6 accounts and made 6 music videos for them that were montages of us training. The first 15 seconds and the last 15 seconds were identical in every video. What we did is we customized the middle part to be about each specific company that we did it for.
Nice.
And I just wrote a really simple, we went and filmed it. To film all 6 videos, it was $900 USD. So like really cheap. I just got a guy that was in film school to come follow me around and film this. I planned out the idea in my head. I worked with another sales rep who was a great musician. His name's Tom Deniston. And we went to a studio and actually recorded all this stuff. That was only like $100. But to put it in perspective, Dine's minimum starting cost at the time was $200 a month for a seat. So like all we needed was one customer to sign for the year and the whole campaign would pay for itself. And these are big customers. So like they actually paid way more than that when they signed on. But we ended up, by the way, do you want the longer stories? Is that kind of?
No, go on.
Okay, cool. So we ended up, I wrote a cold email to them, super short and sweet, just saying, hey, blah, blah. I've been a huge fan of you and your company for a long time. Usually it was something customized about them each. I thought given the holiday, like we did this, we filmed and did all this stuff in the December, and then we actually hit the go button 3rd week of January. And in the email, I was like, hey, blah, blah, we love your company. So we made you this video. Click here and you can watch it. It's about you. It's specifically for you. Like we made it very clear that it was a personalized, specific video for them. They clicked into it. And of the 6 companies, 2 wrote back right away and booked meetings with us. And we're blown away. And the funny thing is I made these for 2 people at each company. I usually went after 2 or 3 people at each company. All of them had hundreds of views on them. So I know they were sharing them around the office afterward, which was awesome. But we got 2 meetings right off the bat. Then after we made the videos, to follow up with the other 4 accounts, I sent an email to everyone in my network on LinkedIn and said, hey, blah, blah, I made this video for this prospect. I made this video for this other prospect, this other prospect, this other prospect. Do you mind tweeting at these people?
Yeah.
And this video, and I made a click to tweet that was really easy for them to click a page to the video. This is before Twitter had video, by the way. Yeah. And so all these people that I was trying to target instantly had their phones all blow up with all these alerts on Twitter about this video. And at the end of the video, it just said email Ryan at LeadIQ. I'm sorry, Ryan at Dine.com. That was my email at the time. Anyway, long story short, 5 out of the 6 turned into customers. Nice. We had an 83% response rate. The only company that never got back to us was Expedia. It's funny, when I worked at Dine, I used to tell, whenever I did this talk, I used to say, hey, can everyone go tweet at Expedia this video now? What I can do for you, John, how about I'll give you a link to post to with all the videos on it if they want to watch them. They're really cool. And so really cool. That's easily my favorite prospecting campaign that we did. The awesome part was I didn't write to the CEO of Hulu. I wrote to the CTO. Yeah. And the CEO saw the video and then forwarded it to the CTO requesting that he meet with us. And he ended up forwarding it to his press contacts, and the next web picked up an article about my email.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you create something that exceptional, you can do amazing things like that.
I wasn't trying to get press. I was just trying to get a meeting with their CTO, Rich, and they ended up booking. Not only did he hand it down to me, but that we ended up getting a meeting with them afterward. And so that's kind of what it comes down to, is like, that's kind of the future of prospecting, is like your copywriting, not just act like you're making something that like you're being held at gunpoint. If this person doesn't laugh or get a good feeling when they read your email, you're not going to get a good response. And
this is far more enjoyable. Like, I actually can't write in that corporate tone. Like, my brain just rejects it. And for me, I'm a writer first. I enjoy the writing more than anything. Like, it actually makes it not like work in a way. And it's effective. So why wouldn't you do it like this? It makes it so much more fun and entertaining, and it's more.
I'm trying to sound cool and British here, but let's say you've got your mates and you're IMing each other on Slack or one of those chat calls. That's what you guys say, right? You
mates, mate. Yeah.
I'm trying to get with the times. Anyway, let's say that we in our work, for example, we have a Slack channel that we just share funny links around the office. All we do is bookmark all those links. And if we don't have an angle for someone, share a cool link with someone that you're emailing. Like if you find a funny Onion article, if you find a video that might be topical, if you want to use, like, I'll give you an example. There's a clip. I wish I could stream it right now, but there's a clip that I used to share. I'd write an email to someone. And it's a ridiculous clip of this guy yelling "garbage day" and then shooting someone. And like, it's like an over the top crappy 80s horror movie clip.
Yeah.
But like, out of context, it's hilarious. If you watch it in the movie, the movie's so bad that it's like a train wreck. I watched the whole movie eventually, but I used to save that. And when I used to write emails to people, I'd be like, hey, I know you probably want to, like, you might want to put this email in your trash. I know it's garbage day, and I'd have a link to this video. And then I'd personalize something, give a value prop, ask for a meeting or ask to talk. And so many people would write back to me about it because they thought they'd write that clip was amazing. Yeah, I'll talk to you. They see that you're common like them. And the thing is, the people you're prospecting, they're just like you. Like, they like to laugh. They want to have fun when they're working. A lot of them hate their job. I mean, I'm not saying we all hate our jobs. I love my job at LeadIQ, but I mean, like, a lot of the people you talk to and work with and sell to don't actually like their jobs. And that's one of the reasons people change jobs so often.
And another part of this, and I've always, here's the most common objection I've had to not my approach, but the approach of using humor, is they go, oh, that's all well and good for you, John, in marketing, but I bet this won't work on luxury brands, or it won't work on CEOs at big corporates. And it's almost, I tell them, look, it won't work on absolutely everyone, but you can't pigeonhole people like that. Someone doesn't come say the CEO of Red Bull and then go, you know what, I've got to this far, I don't like to laugh anymore. That's that after thing.
The funny thing is, I did the same techniques to get into UPS, the NFL, some of these really, really prestige brands.
Yeah.
They're just normal people that work at big companies instead of small companies. And it's not like, it's cool that they work at a big brand. It also means that it's easier for you to come up with content because the bigger the company, the more stuff that's out there that you can mention.
Yeah.
If I were going to prospect Uber, for example, there's so much news about Uber. I might be like, let's say you're trying to break into Uber right now. Let's say you're a web analytics platform and you're trying to break into Uber. You could totally I would make a video trying to pitch myself as CEO of, like, the new CEO of Uber or something, and make a joke about it or something. Like, that might be a sensitive issue actually because of how that happened. But like there's current event news issues that you can talk about with these brands that you're trying to break into. And as long as you're thoughtful about it and you think about it, you can entertain someone and make a really good impression with them. There's no, like, the formality thing. Here's the other thing too. I'll give you a perfect example of this. I worked at a healthcare startup. And when I worked at the healthcare startup, we used to have, before I joined the company, this is marketing goggles, but I'm going to tell you how it works for prospecting too. We had on our website all this information about how your health records are safe. Everything's going to be okay. Don't worry. Everything's secure, all that stuff. All you're doing is making them think about that stuff.
Yeah.
If I say don't think of pink elephants and you mention pink elephants, you think of pink elephants. It's the same thing. If you use humor, you can actually earn trust from someone. Our website conversion when we're trying to build our waiting list increased 75% when we switched to using humor in our copy instead of serious tone in a healthcare startup.
Yeah.
And that's healthcare is in Italy. I don't know if it's like that in the UK, but in the United States, it's super, super sensitive and serious.
Yeah, it's what's the word? Finance and medical are the two most not litigious, but there's a word where there's rules about marketing, etc. But it's those two have the most. And I deliberately went out of my way to help someone in the group, Richard, who's involved in providing email encryption solutions for healthcare companies. And I deliberately picked him because I was like, if I need to prove that this approach works, this is the type of company I want to do it with. And I think it's slowly having an effect now that I think some people maybe don't want to believe it.
Well, I think, you know what I think it's there's a monkey see, monkey do effect. And I did it when I first joined Dine, even like at LeadIQ, luckily I was able to set I had a blank canvas. So I set the canvas, but
Yeah.
when I worked at Dine, I remember I would look at the existing emails and think, oh, I better duplicate what these guys are doing. They're doing really well. They clearly know what they're doing. What I didn't realize is they hired me to get better than a 3.5% reply rate. That's why they hired me. And that's why you're doing the job that you do now. If you're in this group and you write cold emails and stuff, and you're going to be trying to figure out a way to break in, here's the thing. If you're targeting finance or healthcare, or you're going into the enterprise and it's super serious, and you write an email that's funny, guess what? You're standing out compared to all these other dumb sales reps that aren't using humor.
Yeah.
And and that's even better. You can make an even better impression.
Yeah.
There's a marketer named Seth Godin who talks about, he had a book called The Purple Cow. And the idea is that if you're driving down the field and you see a bunch of white cows and then you see a purple cow, you're going to stop and you're going to take a picture of it and you're going to post and talk about it. You're going to do all these things. Make your email the purple cow. And I know you're thinking, oh, Ryan's a marketing guy. But the thing is, I built our pipeline at LeadIQ when I first joined here. I still do prospecting today. I did prospecting for 4 years at Dine. All I was a guy with a laptop and an email account, and I was able to go build up our first 300 enterprise customers.
Yeah.
And today the company's now owned by Oracle, and they have 600 million. Like, they were sold for over $600 million. Yeah. Like, I just did, like, I'm not saying it's because of me, but I'm saying the prospecting and the process that I put in place to do this stuff, it worked. And you can do the same thing. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. Like, we can all be excellent. Just think about it like this. Like, ask yourself, what does my prospect actually want to get as an email? Do they really want to read this? Are they going to laugh? If they're not going to laugh, are they going to be informed? What are they going to feel when they read my email? If they feel like it's just a boring, crappy email, throw it out. Don't send it.
I've said that to people. If with humor, it's also refreshing honesty. Like, there's none of that sort of ego-based, authoritative sort of wording. It's more of the honesty, humor, human. That's how you connect with people, rather than the braggadocious trying to impress with jargon and templated designs. I just prefer good words, funny, honest, and you can make that connection. Definitely.
Yeah, one of the things I hate is people stuff adjectives into their one sentence value prop they write. Don't do that. No one gives a shit about innovation, cloud, enterprise, solution crap. Don't say that. You know what I mean? Like, make your value prop really clear. Like for LeadIQ, my value prop's super clear. If you use LeadIQ, we're going to cut down a ton of steps in prospecting so that you can have fun with your email. And you can spend more time thinking about, what am I going to say in my inbox as I'm sending this email, as opposed to how am I going to get this person's info into all this stuff. And I can just say, we get rid of the annoying parts of prospecting. I don't need to tell you the details. If you want to know the details, go look us up online.
Yeah. It sounds like this is a great fit, because this is the message of it. No wonder you were happy when you found this group, because it's such a weird sub niche. And I just ran with like my way of doing business, and it resonated. But it's still quite rare. It's still, not many people having this approach, and it feels like this is a good fit. I would like to, I'm glad that we had this chat, because it seems like there's a good connection here.
Yeah. And I also love a lot of how you think about cold emailing and how it should be done. I think one thing that I challenge everyone that's listening to this to think about as a takeaway is, look at what you did before you worked in sales. Look at your hobbies at home. Do you play guitar? Do you write jokes? We used to have a guy in our sales team that could literally hit 9 different octaves when he sang, which is ridiculous. So I used to just like, I'd make him sing stuff all the time. I'd be like, hey, I need you for something. I wouldn't tell him what it was. Ask yourself what different skills, maybe you like photography. Whatever you have for a hobby, there's a chance that you didn't originally want to work in sales. See if you can find a way to use a talent that you have and the time that you have to do something for a prospect, and you'll have way more fun prospecting. My favorite days prospecting are when I'm on a webcam playing piano for people.
Nice.
Or if I'm making a funny video for someone or something. Like I like making jokes and having fun with people when I write.
I've started doing stuff with well, I actually helped a designer a while ago, and it started with something like I'm better with images than I am with words. And then there was a comic strip, and the comic strip was basically the first slide. The first section was her going, how do I get their attention without being salesy? Think, Jess, think. And then the next slide is her creating the very comic strip that she's in. And then the next is her sending it. And it's like, you decide the next part of the comic. So I kind of like that creative approach.
If you work somewhere where you don't just do cold emailing, like you do other stuff to prospect, you can do a lot of cool creative stuff to make it so that your cold email isn't about your product. It's about your relationship. Example we did is there's a ridiculous book out there called Outwitting Bears. It's a true book. It's not like ironic.
I'm interested already.
Some guy wrote this story. I'll post it or something in the group at some point. It's easier once the chat's up so I can like reference and put stuff in the comments. But there's this guy and he wrote a serious book about how to outwit bears if you're out in the wilderness. So Drew, one of the guys who's working with me, was writing a cold email to this guy, and he noticed in their explainer video that they had a bear in the video. Like they make a joke about bear attacks or something in the video. So Drew and I went on Amazon, found this book, and sent a copy to the book to the guy. And now all of our emails that we write to this guy are about outwitting bears and bear facts and asking if you got the book. And it's a way easier thing to ask, and it costs us $4 on Amazon to send a book. We book him as a customer. We'll make 10x that if the whole team signs on as an account for us. So like that's like you can do a lot of cool stuff to make excuses to reach out to someone that don't just necessarily limit to email copy.
This is why I like a strategy I used for a long time was direct mail, and then I'd follow that up with an email. And if it's most simple, I had a letter that had this really silly sticker, this really absurd sticker, the ferret with the ferret with bunny ears on. And then in the subject line of the follow-up email, it would say, sorry for the ferret in the post. And they know who that is. There's not anyone else that will have sent that. And I like that kind of double like direct mail, then follow up with an email. And you could do all sorts of clever stuff with direct mail, really creative stuff, because they can't go onto another tab or scroll away. So it opens up a whole other realm of possibility there.
Yeah, I think that like if you're doing something, let's say you're listening to this and you're like, oh man, a lot of the people I reach out to aren't really over email, but I'm still part of this group, and I do occasionally send email for stuff. You can do a lot of cool stuff to make cold calling even more fun too. Like call an office, say, hey, blah, blah, call a gatekeeper, intentionally call a gatekeeper. Don't call your target and say, hey, blah, blah, what's the best pizza place in town? What kind of pizza does this person like? Then call that pizza place and say, hey, I want to order a pizza for them. Is there any way that I can have a pizza delivered to them? Can you write this note with it? I'll give you an extra tip. Use your credit card. Even if you're not located there, use your credit card over the phone, give it. They'll deliver a pizza with a note. And then you call an email about whether they like the pizza that they got or not, and ask if they can get a meeting. Like for an $8 pie, you're going to get a meeting with someone, and it could turn into an enterprise customer that's 4 or 5 digits.
It's almost like we, with the artifice of, I don't know if that's the right word, of business, we forget all of this like clever, human stuff that you can do to get someone's attention.
It should feel good. It should feel good to be prospected. Like I want to feel special when I get prospected. And I think there's a couple different ways to do that. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean you have to spend money sometimes either. Like maybe it feels good to be prospected with like, you don't have to necessarily use money. You can give time. I had someone once write me I had someone once record a video selling to me. They saw my blog post and knew that my bar is really high on prospecting emails. Yeah. And they sent an email to me, and in the email they did a magic trick.
Nice.
Like they had a link and they're like, hey, I did this magic trick for you, Ryan. And I was completely blown away by it. I was like, they had, it was actually someone from Vidyard that did it. It was a customer success person, and they no magic. And they did this trick where he had a coin in his hand and he flicked his fingers and it lit on fire. And then it disappeared. And
That's
he was
amazing.
and he's
That's the high bar to be able to do that.
But the thing is, that guy could probably do that 300 times in a day and probably get a response 50% of the time. You can do all kinds of cool stuff like that. We did a thing once at LeadIQ where in this same exact room, I had a string quartet here and we picked accounts and I was like, hey, blah, blah. I had the webcam and I was like, hey, blah, blah. We had a surprise for you. Walked in here, turned on the light, and there was a string quartet, and they just started playing music for them. We had them play a couple classic rock songs. And I figured out a way to cut the video a certain way so I could reuse it for other prospects as well. And like, that's an example of like, the string quartet only cost me a couple $100 to get here for a couple days, for like a couple hours. And they're not getting work. Like, how often is a string quartet person that's a professional musician actually finding work? There are creative people out there that don't have enough work, and you can take advantage. It sounds bad, but use those people. Like, help them. You're helping them too. They're getting their name out there a little bit. No,
definitely. Yeah, because it's there's a lot of creative talent that can be used for this purpose. And if, these accounts are worth a lot of money, it's a small investment to make, and you're helping people and you're having fun. Why would you do it any other way?
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to say too, I think that, I was talking about what makes a good email earlier and what my criteria is. I talked about who are you? You put down your email signature. Why are you emailing me? How am I special to you? We kind of talked these three things. The last thing I think people mess up on is, what do you want me to do with this email? Yeah. That's something that I look at a lot of cold emails and they'll just say a bunch of stuff and then actually not even ask for a meeting. Yeah. And that's a huge mistake too. Yeah. This, if anyone here is using a tool like Crystal Knows and sees that like they're prospecting someone and it gives personality profiles saying, hey, this person likes being direct and stuff, I'll tell you something that they're wrong about. I like their tool, but they are wrong about one thing. I noticed that when I write an email, if I end an email with an open-ended question, I have a higher response rate. And you should all do that too. I know it's a little against a lot of, I don't know where you stand on that, but I know a lot of sales experts say don't do that. I do an open-ended question because if I ask a question like, hey, can I get 15 minutes to talk with you after I already did all this stuff? The answer is either going to be yes or no response.
Yeah, you put an offer out there. Now, for I put a request at the end of mine, and I usually kind of sugarcoat it with something funny. So I'll say, if you agree to have a 5-minute Skype with me, I may even tell you, I'll sweeten the deal, and I may even tell you some random trivia about my hometown that will be borderline fascinating. Or
I love that. That's really funny.
Or you can use to impress almost nobody. So I'll kind of just hide that little request as well. Just a little.
By the way, that's like a super British joke that I love. It's like borderline interesting or fascinating. But I was going to say, a lot of people say not to do this, but I'll end an email with, what are your thoughts? And the cool part is, if I end with, what are your thoughts? Instead of just not responding, the options turn into, it doesn't just turn into yes or no. It turns like, yes, I'm going to respond. No, I'm not interested. Not going to respond. Yeah. They'll actually write and give you an objection, and then you can overturn that objection.
Yeah, that's great.
So I always like kind of trying to get, remember your first email, you should write your first email like it's not going to be your last email that you write to that person.
I end with them, but I don't like emails that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that open just with a question.
What'd you say? Sorry?
I don't like emails that open with questions, because I feel like you'd never do that. Like, it sounds infomercially to me if you open with this problem. And I don't know. Maybe that's personal preference, but obviously
no. I don't agree. I don't think you should open with a question ever.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah.
Your first thing you should do should be a hook about them. Like, make it about them, and have like a good you to me ratio. Make more of your email about them. If you're doing an I ratio, you better be making fun of yourself. Like, that's the thing. Like, I thought, like, I love that in some of the emails that you post, you actually do a lot of self-deprecating humor, which is perfect. Like, you kind of can make fun of yourself a little bit. Remember, some of the, like, even though we're peers with these people and, you're working with a CTO or CEO and you're selling to them at a company, like, they want to be able to have their guard down. Don't be afraid to make fun of yourself, and it actually makes you seem more welcoming. I used to thank someone by
mocking yourself. It's like kind of completely safe. I'm just going to put my light on 1 sec.
Oh yeah, that's okay. It's okay. And while people are listening, I guess, and he's turning on the light, the other thing is, if you're doing follow-up email, a lot of people ignore the same rules you do on a first email with a follow-up email when you don't have to. Your follow-up email should be customized and personalized also. Like you can reference something you might have done in your first email if you want to. In your follow-up email, you also can make fun of yourself a little bit. I used to do this thing at Dine. The results aren't as high now with LeadIQ as it used to be when I did it at Dine, but I used to get it. I swear this is true. I got a 70% response rate doing this once. I wrote an email to a bunch of people and I sent a follow-up where I had a picture of me laying on the ground. And in the email, I just said, hey, blah, blah, blah. Kind of bummed out that I didn't hear back from you. I get it. You're busy. No big deal. See attached. If for some reason you can get a couple minutes and you want to make fun of me for being this devastated about it. And the thing is, like, don't go do the same thing. Come up with your own thing to do that. Yeah. Like I hate like when people do like how many people do the alligator thing? It's kind of overdone now. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I always have this worry as well with giving templates out that people just change little words. And it's like, yeah, that's just, you need to, and also if people just copy my humor, when they come to call, like you get on a call with someone or they meet with someone, you got to be congruent. You got to make sure that fits. You know, it's
like if you're not funny, don't feel like you're doomed. Just pick a different thing you can be. Yeah. So you probably know this coming from the marketing world, but there's this thing called brand archetypes, and the idea is that you can be every person has different parts of an archetype inside them. For example, at different points in our life, we all feel like a rebel. We all feel like we want to be different. If you feel like you can do the rebel brand when you're writing your cold email, do it. Like, be like, hey, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to go against the rules a little bit and try something? Everybody's got that appeal. There's not one person in the world that doesn't like the Fonz.
Yeah.
or like you can pick different archetypes. Go Google brand archetypes and pick an archetype. If you're not the gesture, which is what humorous people are, if you feel like you're not good at being funny, be a different archetype, and you'll be surprised. Like you'll be surprised at how comfortable you feel on a sales call with someone after they reply back if you pick that archetype. Like I'm not a very good sage. Like I know a lot of stuff, but like if I wrote an email saying, hey, blah, blah, did you know this data point? That's not my style. And if I got on a call with someone afterward and had to spew off and be an expert and just talk about data points, I would totally be uncomfortable with the call. But if I make a joke and make fun of myself or make fun of them or make fun of something in the situation, and then I get on a call with them, I'm going to feel way more comfortable being a gesture. So there's all these different archetypes, and you can actually apply that stuff to what your email copy. I know this is a little off topic too, but like it totally can relate to how you're writing your cold emails. Yeah. Go read all the archetypes. There's different ones. There's a friend brand. And these are what brands do in real life. There's a difference between, I'm trying to think of international brands, but like BMW, for example, is the leader. They call themselves the ultimate driving machine. That's their campaign in the United States. I don't know if it's the same thing internationally, but their whole shtick is that they act like they have the best vehicles. And then you go to a brand like Volkswagen, which is a friend brand. They are a car company. They're very similar to BMW. Maybe they're perceived as a lower end vehicle, but Volkswagen's brand is all about being your friend and seeing them relatable and doing things that you do. And that's kind of the approach that you can take when you're picking what archetype you want to be writing a cold email.
Yeah. I once, on a podcast, the Kevin Rogers podcast, his reply to me when I sent a cold email was, well done for using your personality like the weapon it is. And I guess this is what we're talking about, is use that, as a weapon, whatever it might be. You can look at those archetypes and then you can leverage that as a weapon. And it does say, because I've thought about this before, is that we're kind of bringing in stuff from branding and the consumer advertising world, but bringing it into B2B, which is weirdly stuck in this period where it was just about features and benefits and not used any of these devices, or, not to the same extent. And there's no reason why not to. It definitely works.
Well, the other thing to think about too, while I just looked at my phone while we were talking, while we've been talking over the past couple minutes, I've legitimately had 14 different vendor emails come in.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like right now. It's not actually a good spot to like go look at any technology landscape. If you're in software sales, type in marketing technology landscape, you'll see 10,000 different companies on there. The troubling thing isn't that there's 10,000. A lot of people see these and say, I got to prospect these. These are great companies to go after. When you see these technology landscapes, yes, that's true. But the other thing is, all those companies are B2B companies, and they all have sales teams that are going after the same people that you are, and you're competing with those people. So you better make sure that what you're doing is quality, damn funny, makes them feel good, has value, and explain and convinces them, yep, I'm going to take a couple times out of my day. I'm going to escape and talk to you. And that's what sales calls should be like. It should be an escape. It can relate to the business. It can be valuable, but you should look forward to being on a call with a salesperson. You should put them through an amazing experience when they talk to you.
I actually got a lot of influence from, I don't know if you know Hunter S. Thompson.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
His letter, like Kingdom of Fear is one of his books filled with just his letters. And it reminds me a little bit like this, that when people used to write letters to each other, there was humor involved, and there's a way of writing in that style. I think I got a lot of influence from that. And there's something about email where people have gone all sort of serious that wouldn't have been the same in writing, sort of letter writing. So Kingdom of Fear is a great book. Probably too far. You don't want to write some of
the things that Hunter S. Thompson probably talks about aren't safe for work.
And maybe off limits. But
you know what's funny, John? With the light behind you, it looks like you're in witness protection. Like you're hello, how's it going? Like
it's dark. Maybe I am. It's a weird disguise to have, but
yeah, we should. But like, my point is, when you're prospecting, it's almost like sometimes you're even doing a bit. Don't talk about how you're. One thing I can't stand is like, yes, this is a cold email. You don't have to waste text on that. Like, don't say that stuff. Instead, be like, try and find a way to relate to them and say, yeah, I want to be friends with you. I want to get to know someone. I'll tell you another story. I once wrote an email to a guy who was running a social networking site at the time that was really popular. This is like 2008, 2009. And I wrote an email to him. And in the email that I wrote, I saw that he was talking about this new technology called iBeacons, which if people don't know what iBeacons are, who cares? We'll come up. I don't care. I don't want to explain it. It's boring. But I looked it up and I was reading about them. I actually thought they were kind of interesting. And in the email, I saw he wrote a blog. Before I emailed him, I saw he wrote a blog post about iBeacons. So I asked him a couple of questions, but I'm like, hey, business guy, I don't know a ton about this stuff, but it seems like you can do X, Y, Z with this. Lots of cool startup ideas you could potentially do with iBeacons. I was curious if we could set up some time to talk. I work here. I want to talk to you about this stuff a little bit, and this is what we can talk about. But I do want to know about, I thought it'd be kind of cool to also talk about iBeacons. We did a call and talked for 30 minutes, and we honestly talked about iBeacons for maybe 20 minutes of it. Spent 5 minutes talking about Dine at the time, and ended up turning into a demo account. He ended up not going with us, but I built a really good relationship with him because I wasn't salesy. I focused on the relationship. What ended up happening was a couple months went by. It was the dog days of summer, right around now, July, where it's really hard to get a response because people are on vacation or they're on holiday or they're doing something else. And I randomly get a call at my desk and I answer the phone. And the person on the phone is the CTO of Viacom, huge media company. Yeah. They own CBS, Paramount, and at the time we priced everything off of domain names. So when they were all coming out with all these different studios and movies and stuff, every single one of those websites was collecting traffic and they were a prime customer. CTO of Viacom cold called or called me because this guy that I talked to, Jordan, said, hey, Ryan's a stand-up guy. We talked about iBeacons. He's a good kid. I want to help him get a deal. And you said you're looking for a DNS person. Don't fill out a lead form. Talk to this guy. And I got an op with it. He ended up closing. Everything was awesome. Whole reason I was able to go do that stuff was because I worked on a relationship with the person, even though they didn't close and turn into a deal. So this stuff can work for building a relationship. You might feel like, oh man, it might be a waste of time. You'll get referrals from people that don't even pay for your business.
Yeah. It's a long-term benefit to this as well, because you're going to be remembered. And I actually once had an email where they replied to it and they said, I've kept this email for a year and now finally I need your creative services. They literally waited 12 months to get in touch. That would never ever happen with a normal standard email.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, no. I was just going to agree with you.
That's good. Well, I'm glad about that. Do you want to do, we've been going an hour now, do you want to do a final pitch for how LeadIQ can help all of the charm offensive folks?
Yes, sure. I'd love to do that. So if you find yourself during your day and you're tired of wasting time on tedious tasks with your prospecting, you should email me, Ryan@LeadIQ.com. I will get you in touch with someone here who will take care of you. We have an awesome Chrome extension. I know there's a lot of Chrome extensions out there that get you email addresses. What we do that's different is in one click, you can grab someone off LinkedIn. We'll go look for their email. We'll verify their email address. We'll look for phone numbers. We'll send that information into Salesforce, create a lead record for you or an account or contact record if you want. We can send that stuff right into SalesLoft or Outreach if you use either of those tools to send your cold emails. You can literally send someone right from LinkedIn into that and Salesforce at the same time. All that stuff done in one click. You'll be surprised at how much time it can save you if you actually do it. If you want to try it out, I didn't set up a landing page ahead of time for this. I can't send you to a link. Email Ryan@LeadIQ.com and I will get you set up with someone that can help you out on this stuff. We'll give you demos. Worst case scenario, you're going to get free leads out of it. I'll give you 100 free leads that you can just test out. That's verified emails that you'll be able to do this stuff with. Test some of the stuff out that we talked about here with fresh leads. If you already did it with some leads and they're kind of old and crappy and bummed out, this can be a cool way of doing some new stuff. So anyway, I highly recommend that. Hit me up. I will talk about prospecting with you too. Honestly, I just want to make it so that I have this vision that 10 years from now, we're all going to feel good about prospecting. Like we'll be looked at as the people that are in this group that are writing good cold emails. We're going to all be viewed as geniuses someday because we're trying cutting edge new stuff and that's not just using buzzwords, but we're all trying cutting edge new stuff with cold emailing to differentiate and seem different rather than do stock boring stuff. They're going to look back at us and it's going to be like looking at advertising in the 60s. That's what it's going to look like for this era. And we all have the potential to be those pioneers right now. Think of it like that when you're prospecting. Like you should feel good about what you're doing. Every time you write a bad cold email, sorry, now I'm getting preachy, but every time you write a bad cold email, it trains your customers and other people to not look at other sales reps' cold emails. Yeah. So anyway, you definitely hit me up. I'm willing to talk to you. I'm willing to help you out. We'll do anything we can to help you guys out. Thank you for having me on.
No problem, man. This was awesome. And it's great to speak to someone that loves this stuff as much as me.
I'd love to be on again at some point. I just love geeking out about this stuff. So
awesome, man. Well, that will no doubt happen. Thank you very much for your time, man. This was awesome.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Have a great
Do I stop moving now so the recording stops?
It'll come to an end suddenly. Stay out of trouble, man. One second.